All I wanna make love to you.
Hello and welcome to the Nattercast for Game of Thrones, episode 407, entitled Mockingbird. I am Jason Schenkel of Schenkel Studios, and I'm here tonight as always with my small council. Say hello, small council.
Hello.
Hello.
And we are here to natter at you about the 7th episode of the 4th season of Game of Thrones, entitled Mockingbird. Before we do that, a little bit of our contact information. We are the Nattercast. You can reach us at www.nattercast.com, and you can send us email. We love email. Send email whenever you want to nattercast@gmail.com. And where the big party is for us online is, of course, at Facebook. If you come to Facebook and search for Nattercast, you'll find a page. We'd love it if you would like the page. And you'll find a group. We'd love it if you join the group and come in and discuss all kinds of TV shows, not just Game of Thrones, but True Detective, Sons of Anarchy, The Americans, 24, I mean, whatever people are watching. We talk about it quite a bit. And please, if you're listening to us on any of the RSS aggregators, but especially iTunes, if you could get in there and give us a nice 5-star rating, even if you don't listen to us on iTunes, it's really the best thing you can do for us is go in there, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and then you can unsubscribe and listen on Castroller or on the website or wherever you listen. But it really helps our visibility with Apple when you do that, and we certainly do appreciate it. So,
and we have a special group for the show.
Oh yes, and we have a special group for the show. I Can't Stop Watching Game of Thrones. We also have I Can't Stop Watching True Detective. These are our two big premium shows that we cover. So we created special fan groups for them, where people have more gushing fan-based conversations where you just love the show, unconditionally, and don't talk about other shows or things like that. And we have one final thing that we're starting to do that if you can come along and help us out with, that'd be great, which is that we have a YouTube channel starting up where these podcasts are appearing just as movies with just little slideshows in them, to get more of the YouTube audience listening. So anybody who subscribes to our channel, if you are a YouTube person and want to listen to the cast on YouTube, you can, or just get us some subscriptions so we'll get more visibility and attract more listeners to the Nattercast that way. We're basically trying to get listeners in here, as many as we can, and we've been growing pretty well in the last year. With that in mind, of course, if you have friends, family, people who are in your life who are insane about Game of Thrones or are nuts about True Detective or Sons of Anarchy or any of those shows, let them know about the Nattercast, because the more Natterborn, the better. And that's my pimpin' for the show. So. So before we get into the cast, we have a little bit of listener feedback, but we haven't done this in a while. What did people think about this particular episode? Let's start with Danielle.
Great episode.
Yeah?
I mean, there's still certain storylines that aren't moving fast enough and certain choices I'm not real thrilled with, but very fun episode. The Tyrion stuff Tyrion and Oberyn, I could watch that on a loop endlessly.
Pretty sure there's some excellent fanfic out there for you.
Yeah.
Oberyn is so friggin' hot. So, yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I got the sense that those two would have been pretty good friends in another life.
Mm-hmm.
a lot in common. Alan, what'd you think?
I thought the King's Landing scenes were great. I really liked the Melisandre Selyse scene, which I think probably a lot of people didn't, but I really liked it. I did think that there were a bunch of points in the episode, like there were a bunch of great scenes, but there was also a bunch of points that were pretty clumsy.
Okay.
And when we get to them, we'll hit on a couple of them. But
a mixed bag.
It's the first time in a long time that I've thought there are places where the writing or the blocking was like, really? Like, you're kind of cutting some corners here. We'll get to them now.
We'll get to that. Cool. Miss Molly?
Yeah, overall I liked it. I thought probably like a B+. I'm kind of getting tired of Danny. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Yeah. I feel you.
That storyline really needs to do something because, yeah.
Yeah, it's she's just too disconnected from the story.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're trying to connect her a little bit by making the small council aware of her and all of that.
Right.
But at some point, there has to be a conflict between the East and the West. Otherwise, you've just written two novels.
What?
Yeah.
Just her getting some isn't. That's not enough plot.
That's not a plot for you. Yeah,
Really? Game of Thrones? Everybody gets some.
Right. And like
Yeah.
Oberyn, vanilla or chocolate. Yes, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
I mean, she also
And
kind of
some
made a
sprinkles on
decision
top.
of some kind.
Sort of. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but the rest of the episode, I thought like Arya and the Hound, Oberyn and Tyrion, lots of these other scenes were really, really well done. So
yeah. I think I agree. I mean Tyrion and Oberyn obviously, and Arya and the Hound I agree are the best. I'm liking Jon's story the way it's developing at this point. It's starting to feel like it's similar to Dany's. It's like this slow build toward a massive conflict thing, but it feels like there's more interesting subplots because he's involved in a culture that he's not. Everyone doesn't just call him the king and worship him.
Well, he's got more of the conflict of the hero struggle,
and he's got enemies, and he's got personal challenges and stuff like that, and so it feels more like he's becoming. I've always thought of them as similar characters, and it feels like he's becoming a more well-rounded character because we're seeing him deal with conflict with other people,
right?
Whereas Dan is being kind of just she's getting close into Melisandre territory.
Yeah.
In terms of just being I will do justice. It's like, do you understand that if you do justice, you can't collect taxes?
Right. Yeah.
But at least, like the people that complain about Jon moping, he's not moping anymore.
Right.
We're not seeing the self-doubt. We're not seeing the
he's really
lack of confidence. He's really coming to his own as a leader.
Right.
And the interesting thing about that is he got a lot of that by being with the Wildlings.
Yeah.
So he actually kind of got a lot of that from Mance Rayder's people, and he's bringing it back to the wall.
Right.
But okay, well, the lovely Sion is on assignment this week, as well as Shane, and so I'm gonna just go through a little bit of our listener feedback, and then we'll get into the fabulous recaps. So we have Melissa Skeen Setzer, who says, if I was happy last week with character development, storytelling, and superb acting, I was practically orgasmic last night. Seriously, I loved it. The kiss between Peter and Sansa was creepy creeperson, but Lysa flying was a decent payoff to all that squickiness. I was so excited to see Hot Pie, I literally clapped my hands when he first appeared. Hot Pie! I did too.
That was fantastic.
I did like a little Hot Pie.
There's so few happy characters.
Yeah.
So just check in.
One of the few semi-decent people.
And it was cool that they didn't see them. They didn't give it away by showing them arrive at the inn and go, wait a minute, is that where Hot Pie is?
Hot Pie is?
Just having them come up to the table was cool.
Yeah. It's like there's just this one inn that everyone goes to. It's like Cheers.
Coincidence,
Yeah. Pod and Brienne are good fun. Arya and the Hound continue to interest me, but I guess I'm ready for something to happen with them soon. Okay. This Dario does very little for me, but he has a decent ass. So there's that. Now, that is almost certainly not his ass.
What?
Yeah,
almost certainly,
did
it's virtually always a stunt ass. If you're not seeing
that
face,
shot,
that was they hired a stunt ass for sure.
I was just peeking between his legs because the last time we saw his ass, or last time he whipped it out, he had the peen hanging in the front. So I'm like, where is it? I'm bad.
Ass close-ups, typically not your actor or actress. So disappointing. The magic of Hollywood. Bronn and Tyrion. It was a no-win situation for Bronn. I could tell it was difficult for both of them. Oberyn and Tyrion. What's not to love? It brought me to tears. Perfect storytelling, perfectly acted.
Yep.
And I agree. I think you posted something, Danielle, about that scene being one of the few that's actually better on the show than in the book.
It was good.
Yeah.
It's just the emotion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very similar, I think, to the book.
It is. There's
no major deviations. But just the addition of Peter Dinklage's face and the tears in his eyes, and just
I haven't read the book. I read the book about a year ago, but my recollection is we don't have this long, slow retelling of the rape story, so we get this big moment of revenge. It's told largely in backstory at that moment.
Yeah, I don't remember when it was told.
It's not like it's not like we keep hearing about Oberyn's sister
Right.
throughout the course of the book, and then
Right.
get to this moment.
But
So-
the story, all the stuff that Oberyn said is all true.
oh yeah,
to the
and
book.
he in the book
But
he
I
narrates
can't
it.
remember exactly when it was introduced.
My recollection is he narrates it actually during the fight or just before it, and so I like the way that they've really made that the centerpiece
Right.
for this. Okay, so we have Hannah Loveless Pa'al. So hard to watch Tyrion to find out that the hatred directed at him all of his life isn't just his imagination or feeling sorry for himself, and that it isn't even because he's a dwarf, but because his mother died giving birth. We've heard that one before. Mm-hmm. And to know that there's never been one moment when his sister didn't hate him and wish him dead. So very sad. I'm glad Oberyn told him the truth. Tyrion really needs to know exactly what he's dealing with in Cersei. I think he's got no illusions about that.
He's been clear on that
Yeah.
one. She's trying to have him killed several times now.
You know, yeah. This is like the nth time that she's tried to have him killed.
Yeah.
Kim Sheriff says, I haven't read the books, but could the foreshadowing that the Hound is going down been more stronger than last night's episode? I know his issue with fire, but when your world lacks antibiotics, fire can be your friend.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
They mention antibiotics in the book. They seem to
But
have
they
it.
usually don't usually bring a torch to your shoulder.
No.
It's like steel that's been heated
Or
up.
boiled.
a
I think she was
knife.
going to do the burning wood.
Yeah.
I guess.
But not actual
Charcoal.
fire.
Yeah.
But I mean, heat the tip of a knife and
Right.
Yeah.
Brand
Arya's
it.
not exactly, a trained nurse.
No,
So.
right.
But we're
But-
not quite sure what she would have done.
When they were treating Jaime's wound in the book, they talked about boiling it in alcohol and applying rotting bread. So they have
Right.
some
Boiled
minor
wine. They do boiled
wine.
Yeah.
So they have some minor version of penicillin and like that. Wine wouldn't be so great; it's too sugary. You'd want some kind of liquor. But there you go. Okay. Stephanie Brown Anderson says that scene with Oberyn was awesome. I think my favorite of the season and way up there for the series as a whole. It was beautifully acted. It was heart-wrenching to read that scene, and I truly didn't expect the show scene to be even more moving than the books. It was Stephanie. Said more moving than the book. Dinklage really knocked it out of the park. The pain he felt was perfectly acted. 2 amazing scenes from Tyrion these past 2 weeks, with one incredible monologue and another with practically no lines at all. He is masterful. So yeah, I'd say that Dinklage is certainly masterful.
Yep.
And just a couple more here. Katrina McDowell said, I had tears, real honest-to-goodness tears, as Oberyn was describing pulling back the covers and seeing the baby, not a monster. The emotion on Tyrion's face seemed to be genuine, as Tyrion caught his breath when Oberyn said he would be his champion, and then I lost it. I got goosebumps and I cried like a baby.
Yep.
It is interesting in adaptation. I could be wrong, but I think that story is actually from when they first meet in the book.
Right.
So
and
in the
Tyrion
book,
first meet?
they meet on the road.
Yes.
Right. Where in the show he went off to the brothel without him. But in the
Right.
book they meet on the road, and it's a much more of a. It is not a commiseration. It is not a. It is not this. It's much more of a baiting moment. Much
Oh,
more
he's
of
like
an-
just taunting him a
right,
bit? Yeah.
right, and I'm pretty sure I could be.
I
wrong.
remember
Is
the
that the
story,
scene
but
where
I don't
Pod is
remember
doing
how
all
it
the
was.
banners?
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
right, yeah,
That
yeah.
scene, and there's some taunting because actually the reason why Oberyn and Elia were there was to acclimate them to Jaime and Cersei.
Right.
Because Tywin wanted that to be, was it Tywin or the Dornish wanted that to be, they were looking for.
Those were going to be the 2 marriages?
Yes.
They were going to
Or at
marry,
least
they were
one
going to
of
marry Dorne to Jaime and Cersei? Oh,
I don't know.
Double
I-
Dorn?
I don't know.
they're going double Dorne?
Going double Dorn.
I think they talked about a few
given
different
Dorne
scenarios.
and Jaime and Cersei, that might have been the best thing for everyone because just like
Because they're freaks in Dorne. They
exactly
probably wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah. I think I still am going with the Knight of... I'm a big shipper on Knight of Flowers with Cersei. I think those two...
those two crazy kids.
Those two
make it
crazy
work.
kids, if they can't make it, nobody can make it.
That's right. It might actually be the best marriage for both of them.
Probably. And Pat Spinogle says, Katrina, I know how you feel in the book. We don't necessarily get much of a personal glimpse of Oberyn, but we kind of know he's awesome. But when he shows up and tells Tyrion the story about seeing him as a baby and then offering him to be his champion, it was like being hit by a lightning bolt. Yes. So
Yeah.
there you are. Okay, so very good. So let's just dive right into the recaps here. Let me see what I got on recap. I think we'll just start with me, and then I can just hand the show over to you guys and go get a beer.
Somebody's still got to run the
Jason?
switches over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Hello?
Did-
Hello?
can you bring me one back?
Levels? Levels? Okay, so I've got Arya and the Hound and Danny. Let's start with Arya and the Hound. So they're coming up on a structure, and basically they've been moving through the north, and various Lannisters and who knows who else have been like sacking pretty much everything, and apparently like farm people are not getting the hint because they're sticking around and waiting to get stabbed. Left, it's been weeks. You'd think they would like move toward a central
It's not
location,
like they have vacation time or anything.
or retake Winterfell. There's nobody there.
Well, that's a really long way away.
Is it a long way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but death is really a long time. I mean,
Yeah. Maybe they should find some.
You can
walls.
Hodor your way over there in fewer than 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, they find this guy, and he's dying of a really, really nasty looking gut wound. Arya asks him, why he's even holding on, and he says habit. And I thought that was a little tone for the rest of the show. It's like so many people are just doing what they do out of habit at this point without thinking it through. Ultimately, they decide to give him mercy, and Hound stabs him in the heart, right, and says, "That's where the heart is." So it's a nice little Hound Arya teaching moment.
Yeah.
But I loved the Hound's eye contact with the guy after he did it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd want the takedown at that point.
Yeah.
And he did it real smooth.
Real smooth and right into the heart.
He's very experienced.
Yeah.
I mean, they always say if you're going to have surgery, you should have someone who's done it like hundreds or thousands of times.
Exactly.
You would think, yeah.
And in this environment, if you're going to die stabbed in the heart, throat cut, these are the better ways to go, I think. It'll be over by the time you feel the pain, kind of.
Right.
And so, Hound was about to expound on where the different organs of the body are when
The kidney is ready.
when he gets Walking Deaded.
Yes.
Full on Walking Dead attack.
That was the stupidest attack.
Walker.
Yeah.
There you are standing behind the Hound, and you're thinking to yourself, "What's my move here?
I'll bite him on the neck.
I'm gonna jump up
Yeah.
and bite him on the neck."
Well, even worse though.
Well,
and
my
this is-
partner stands quite a ways away and can't back me up
This is
very
the first
easily.
clumsy, it wasn't the first clumsy moment in the show. It's the first clumsy moment we're hitting. Really, the other guy is just standing there,
Right.
barely holding his sword, being like, well, that didn't work. I'm not going to run away. I'm just going to sit here and talk to you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Hound's fear of fire is well known.
Yeah.
It is.
You would think that people would create a plan that involved 4 or 5 of you, not 2 of you,
Right.
and fire.
Well,
Or
Flaming
other weapons.
crossbows. And other weapons.
Other than your
Ranged
teeth.
weapons.
Those two didn't look too bright, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say they weren't portrayed as the sharpest knives in the drawer.
No, but even the sharpest, the dullest knives in the drawer, after he breaks the neck of your biting friend.
Yeah.
You don't just stand there
would
and
think
carry
he'd run
on
away.
a
Yeah, just
calm
stand there.
conversation.
Yeah.
Also, when someone asks your name in that context, you do not tell them.
Don't tell them.
No.
Seriously.
No.
So you're going to kill him, but only if you know his name.
Oh, here's my
Right.
Yes.
address.
What's your name?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
But he does tell the name, and Arya goes stabby. She's getting her murder on pretty good these days.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
not a lot of hesitation.
She's like,
on
shoot.
that one.
She's got no hesitation now about killing.
Yep.
Yeah, those were actually two characters from earlier. They were the two
Right.
characters.
Yeah,
Right.
Jock and Rouge and Biter.
Right,
which-
right.
But you got
which,
the-
which one's which?
See,
Well,
she just
okay,
needed
that
the
was
marriage
easy.
of the two. Stab him with the pointy end in the heart.
Exactly right
Yeah.
in the heart. So it was another callback, another hot pie class callback to our good old friend Rouge.
Wow, hot pie.
Wow, hot pie.
It was good to see Hot Pie.
And I like the bit where Hound says, "Is he on your list?" He could be. there have been a few vacancies lately.
There's some negotiable points.
Yeah.
I don't remember everyone.
And then we're sitting back out at camp, and here's another thing too. It's like gathering firewood in this environment is hard enough in the woods. It's well nigh impossible on the moors, right?
Yeah.
There's no trees.
Right.
You're right. And so if you're starting a fire, don't put it distant from you, over in the corner. You want to get that heat because there's, But anyway, they have a fire kind of going, and she's frustrated with her sewing because that was always Sansa's kind of thing to do.
Right.
And the Hound is trying to sew himself up.
Right.
Sew up his neck.
Different kind of sewing.
Different guy sew. I guess she was doing her sword. She was doing her sword.
Yeah.
You loved the way she cleaned it.
With the
She just dumped a little water over the top and then started sewing. They could have faked that better.
Oh.
I mean,
Yeah,
obviously
this
they can't do a full clean
Yeah.
because the makeup would come off.
Yeah.
But they could show her with like a towel over it, or
Well, they could do a reverse angle on her face and have hands.
Yeah.
Right.
They could do a full.
But it was like,
clean.
let me clean it up, dump. Okay, so
Yeah.
no wiping, no
Yeah.
nothing.
Well, I think the couple things we got here is first of all, Hound goes into good Hound mode.
Right.
Where he's the soulful Hound who talks about pain and injustice and things, and we definitely get what an asshole his brother is. In case for the 2 weeks from now when we come back, in case you need any any reason to hate the Hound or to hate the Mountain.
The Mountain.
The Hound will give you some.
And I doubt he shared that story with very many people at all about what really happened to him, but he shared it with both Stark girls.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think in the show it was Littlefinger who tells Sansa, but yes,
I think it's
both,
widely known.
both. Yeah.
Littlefinger told Sansa, but then Sansa was staring at him, and then he went into it, I thought.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more commonly known in this
Yeah.
in this universe. She seems
Right.
to be telling everybody.
You said pretty much everybody.
Right.
Did I tell you about my brother? Yes, we told you about the brother. So she offers to disinfect his wound with fire, and he flips out at it. And she got a look on her face like, fire. You know, like, it's like, okay, here's your vulnerability.
Better keep this bick
I
in
was
my
kind of
back
hoping
pocket.
she was just going to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's see how far I can
Taunty. Yeah, well, that fire eventually goes out, so you got to be careful.
Yeah.
But I really do think that, for anybody hunting the Hound, fire is your key here.
Or
Right.
more than 2 people.
Or more and more than 2 people.
And more than 2 people, yes.
Like, that just reminded me of when they were trying to send Hoster Tully off with the flaming arrow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
And
right.
Edmure kept missing, and then
Yeah.
finally the uncle
Right,
got
shoo. It's like, just get
it. Just
to
do
there.
that to the Hound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you get a couple of people and you bite him.
Jump in there,
Come on, guys. Let's not make this more complicated.
One on his back and one 21 paces away.
So,
Because human bites are known to kill anyway.
I mean, over time.
Yeah, over time, because they're so
Or with
polluted
like
with
30
bacteria.
to 700 of them.
Well, you know a hound's mouth is cleaner than a human.
Exactly.
yeah, exactly.
He should have just licked his...
I'm not terrible.
And I mean, I think I agree with the listener who said that I think I'm ready to move on in this Hound Arya thing. It's been
Right.
Yeah.
fun, but we're repeating a lot of the same.
Well, I think
mistakes.
we're clearly moving on.
We're clearly moving on, yeah,
Because
so-
that's Chekhov's bite. So
right. It's gonna.
it's going to rapidly go into Chekhov's infection.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've
Yeah.
really set that up.
Yeah.
So okay, so that's Arya and the Hound. I didn't really have any audio there for that one, just because we have so much great stuff in King's Landing.
There you go.
Daenerys. Now, speaking of other stories that appear to be happening on other shows. So she's in Marine, and Dario Naharis comes in through her window, bearing flowers. And evidently that just is panty peeler.
Well, I'm not sure where I
For
read it, but
Khaleesi.
someone did point out that it's like 800 feet up. So, yeah.
That's
like
that's some Dario.
Actually, way to go.
Way to
Well,
go,
that
Dario.
And
seems like a lot of work.
Something else that I read was he swam a mile for the flowers, and they're perfect.
Yeah.
I think he
Yeah,
was
how to
lying
get him
about
I think he was lying
Exactly.
about. He was lying about the swim.
I
Yeah.
think so.
My quads are so strong, I can keep my waist up.
Well, he swam. He had to get them from somewhere, so he swam out to an island, and there was a boat there, and he rowed that.
It was actually a helicopter, which is
I was going to say, it wasn't Dantes. He's already been found.
So we get a little man toy action. We get a little Dario butt. We get a little Danny action.
I kind of enjoyed that scene just for the fact that she was so direct. It was good.
Just take
Like,
your
Her
clothes
dress
off.
was gorgeous.
Yeah, well,
I
the
mean,
next scene,
yeah.
the dress was just. Yeah, I could watch that scene
Yeah, the
like
next scene.
700 times.
Yeah.
But
But I think it just I just as I said earlier, I just wish she had more close personal relationships that seem to not be based on everyone deferring to her on everything.
well, it's
Right.
kind of got that the Star Wars prequels issues with it. There's no, I think they're trying to make Dario it, but it's not really. There's no Han Solo here, right? Instead, you've got a bunch of like
Scoundrel.
yes, but
Yeah.
in the Star Wars prequels, it was like a senator and an ambassador,
Yeah.
and all the dialogue is like, "My lord, shall we, head off to the Senate? I have a very formal speech to make." And you're like, "Oh my god, this is so boring.
Yes.
Someone do anything but this." And you're like, "Can we go back when it was a smuggler and a whiny little bitch from
Yes.
Tatooine? Like that was so much more fun."
Yeah, you know what they didn't have in the first series was big Senate meetings
That's right.
because they had an empire.
There was no giant set.
There was
Like
no big
honestly, he made us watch C-SPAN.
Seriously.
Let's all think about that for a second. We all paid like $15 to watch a digital version of C-SPAN.
Galactic C-SPAN.
And I think she suffers a little bit from C-SPAN.
She is suffering a little from C-SPAN.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent way to put it, though.
So I did like when Dario comes out and it's like, "Oh, Commander Mantoy, yeah, Lord Friendzone." Pass each other in the hallway like a couple of cats.
He's like, she's very happy, if you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean, and if you don't, I fucked her.
I would not have let him leave my room dressed like that.
No, put your fucking clothes on, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Not
she
many
was
people
like,
seeing this
I'm
stuff.
done with you.
I'm done with
Literally, get out now.
you. Get out now. Yeah. I'm surprised
Yeah,
she spent the
but-
night. You know.
He was very functional. I mean, she was very functional about it, you know?
I would
Yeah.
tell him, put your clothes on and get back out of here the way you came in.
And then George, so George shows
The
up. She's like,
helicopter's going.
"You're early." It's like not as early as some. You know.
I'm sorry, Joey, are you like 40 or are you 12?
Yeah, seriously, man.
Yes.
And then on the substance of this, once again, we're dealing with like, okay, she's going to send the Second Sons in to take Astapor, right?
Yunkai.
Or Yunkai.
One of the
To
other
take- one of the other
places.
the cities.
Retake.
And retake it.
Yes.
And then it's back to, and then I'm just going to kill all the masters and all this kind of stuff. And so we keep coming back to this. You're going to need somebody who knows how to run these cities.
Didn't we cover this last
Did we cover this last week? It's like you
Yeah.
really can't just be slaughtering all of the masters. You have to figure out, some way to run things. And I'm starting to feel a little like Melisandre action out of her, where it's just like she's just a fanatic about this one way of doing things. And I want to see her get a little pushback,
nuanced. Yeah.
like
Right.
a little bit, especially from other more experienced military commanders.
Right.
Right.
Well,
That's where we hopefully will get more Isdar Zorloris and
right.
her being able to see,
And you're sending the
see things through multiple points of view.
they're sending the Lorax to
Right.
to be.
He does speak for the trees.
He does speak for the trees.
And Marine.
That's what else Marine. So she's starting to get that idea that I need some people from here. I can't just be coming in slaughtering everybody. And my own advice is have 10% of the masters kill the other 90%.
Yes, you've thrown that one out.
Yeah, I love that one. That one
You
works
are. That's
perfectly.
like your King Solomon story.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I just wish Jorah would get some kind of spine. Like honestly, if someone at the end had been like, "No, wait, tell him you changed my mind," I would have been like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, do you honestly think? Like, were you throwing me a bone with that? I'll tell him whatever I goddamn please. Shut the hell up. Like, seriously, woman.
Yeah, no, she needs. I don't know. I need to see her fail at something. Not just lose her dragons and then eventually find them, but like learn a lesson and make a friend. Something like that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anyway, moving on to other material, we have Miss Molly and John on the Wall,
John on the Wall.
and/or Melisandre. You're
John came first in the show, so we'll talk about him first.
okay.
So we see them all the victorious crusaders coming back to the wall, and everybody's giving him a high five, and it's like it's great. And then Sir Alistair Thorne, oh, you get that damn dog out of here, or he's gonna be tonight's supper. I'm like, you're an ass.
That was my clumsy moment number 2. We don't have enough CGI. Put the dog in a cage.
Yeah.
There's an upcoming battle, and we can't possibly have him interacting. Put him away.
Why couldn't Ghost just eat Alistair Thorne? And for everybody
would
that
be
says
so
Alistair,
epic.
there's no T. Alistair. Alistair.
I looked it
Thank
up.
you.
I have it spelled correctly.
Oh, I
in my
didn't
notes.
pick it on you. I was picking on every other podcast I've listened to.
Yes. All right. And so that was pretty much that scene. But we do have audio for the next scene.
All right.
Mance's army was closing in on Craster's Keep when we left. We saw their campfires from Osric's Hill. They'll reach the wall before the next full moon.
Surprised you didn't ride over and say hello. The king beyond the wall is your old friend, isn't he?
We need to prepare.
We've been preparing.
We should seal the tunnel. Plug it with rocks and ice. Flood it and let it freeze.
And how would we range north?
We wouldn't.
Cowards! You would cut off our legs, pluck out our eyes, leave us cowering behind the wall, hoping for the storm to pass.
We can't defend the gate against 100,000 men.
This castle has stood for thousands of years. The Night's Watch has defended her for thousands of years. And in all those centuries, we have never sealed the tunnel.
Have you ever seen a giant, Sir Alistair? I have. The tunnel's gate won't stop them.
The bars on those gates are 4 inches thick, cold-rolled steel.
And they won't stop them.
So I kind of love this exchange just because they're still trying to pull the, oh, he's a traitor, he's nobody, he's a
Right.
stewardess, you know.
He's a stewardess.
He's not even a steward, he's a stewardess. And he's trying.
Bring me my ginger ale.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and he's actually the one with the intel, with the knowledge, with the information that could save their ass.
Yeah, these
Right.
guys are dumb
And-
as a bag of hammers. And
Yeah.
it's no surprise that people who are like thrown out of their culture become these guys.
Yeah. Oh
Right.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I can see that we're building up to a really big mess at the wall, because they're not taking any of John's advice, and he's got good ideas if you have any level of competence around strategy and understanding what's going on. And
Yeah, well, they got this Thermopylae situation,
Yeah.
right? And they do have a choke point,
Right.
You know, and 100,000 is a lot of guys,
right.
You know. But on the other hand, if they all have to go through the same tunnel, you know, that's like four shoulder widths across or whatever, you can do a lot of slaughtering. You could plug it up with bodies.
You could, but you know, you're going to run out of supplies from the top of the wall. He was talking about what was it, taking hot tar up or something? But it's like, how much are you going to
How much
have?
tar do you have? And
Yeah.
then you need like 100 guys. Each needs to boil enough tar to kill 1,000 people.
Right, and you only
It's a
have
lot.
100 guys.
You only have 100 guys.
That's why he's like, we can't range north.
Right.
Like, you got men to spare.
I know.
Yeah, range
I was
north to
like,
do well.
who
And
cares?
winter is coming.
Why do you want to go north at this point anyway? Why? You know,
There
and
ain't nothing out there.
Yeah.
But
So
ugly.
So they wind up punishing John by sending he and Sam up to night duty on top of the wall, and it's like,
yeah.
oh well, at least he'll be able to see everything coming and get out of the way.
How
Yes.
pissed off is Sam in this? What the hell did he do?
Yeah, he
He's
was
John's
just sitting
friend.
next to
He's
him.
like, wait.
Yeah, it's guilt by
Totally
association.
not fair.
Somebody had to be stuck up there.
So, well, I'm really looking forward to the conflict that's coming, though, because it's 100,000 people versus 100 guys. You'd think you'd really seriously be looking to take this a lot more seriously.
And we just lost 5 of the 100
Right.
back at Crasser's Keep.
Right.
Right.
95 guys.
Yeah.
No, help us.
It also
Right.
led to my favorite little internet meme from this episode, which
Yeah.
was, have you ever seen a giant Sir Alistair Thorne? And they just have a giant Sir Alistair Thorne walking next to. It's a simple pun, but it's fantastic. And now when I listen to it, I'm just like, oh, I can't help but laugh.
I'm kind
If
of
they
glad
had
we
a giant
haven't
Sir
seen a
Alistair
giant
Thorne,
Sir Alistair
that
Thorne.
would even
That would even think so.
He's a big enough asshole.
Yes, he
Yeah,
is.
no, I'm looking forward to like John getting a little.
Didn't he
smacked
used to
down
have a
some
beard,
people.
though, or something?
Thorn?
Yeah.
He had a little bit of one.
His face
No, I
didn't look
can't.
quite right.
Because I always.
I don't remember him having, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I was,
mean, he had the stubble beard thing.
Maybe he had more stubble.
Yeah.
I always confused him with Mormont.
Yeah,
No,
I did
Mormont
Just
was
too.
visually,
clear on.
Mormont had the big beard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was a bigger guy.
by the British
Yeah.
old men.
Yeah,
It's easier now. There's only one of them.
yeah. We're down to one crusty old white
Game of
dude.
Thrones helps us by killing off our confusion.
And one thing they cut out, now while on the mention of Mormont, one thing they cut out from the books was, before Mormont died, he said he wanted Jorah to join the Night's Watch, to
Right.
be absolved of all of his
Oh.
crimes and become a good man and lead a
Uh-huh.
lead an honorable life
Right.
of service.
I think being the hand of the queen is probably a better deal.
Yes.
Probably.
That's what he's probably working
Certainly.
towards.
A little
Unless you're not
warmer.
the one that gets to hand the queen.
Oh.
I mean, she has really friend zoned him. I mean, she's been
Yeah.
very,
Yeah,
very
but
solid
I mean,
about it.
Jorah's
Yeah.
got to think about moving on a little bit here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's.
I mean, granted, there's only one other woman on screen, but somewhere there's got to be a woman.
But
Well, no,
obviously,
no, he's got to find some other woman, but not another job.
no.
Yeah.
The job's an excellent job.
but he's obviously a schmuck anyways, because the reason he became a slaver is because he was trying to provide for his entitled wife.
Yeah, he was in debt to a
Once
gold
again,
digger.
proving that the end of all good men is woman.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just clear.
Yeah.
We do our best.
Okay.
Speaking of the end of all good men is woman.
Oh boy.
Segue.
Ding, ding, ding.
We have a winner.
Moving on to Melisandre and Celise. Oh,
I quite enjoyed seeing her nude.
yeah. She's quite
y-
gorgeous.
Just some tiny little areola, but I enjoyed seeing her nude.
It's true.
I mean, everybody loves boobs,
Yeah.
but the thing
Yeah.
is that those were just impressive
Yes.
Well,
in
they're
their
just displayed
sculpt-
perfectly.
just perfectly displayed.
Just
and,
perfect size. Not too big, not too little.
just,
Exactly.
very Melisandre.
Still young enough to be nice and pert.
And
Anyway.
her face is just so stunning, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the awkwardness.
Especially next to
Yeah,
Celise.
and Celise is like, I'm not looking.
I'm not looking
looking.
at your boobs. I'm trying not to look at your boobs.
I bet Celise has never seen herself naked.
Probably
Yeah.
not. Yeah, she seems extremely prudish.
Right.
Compared
Or
to
lack
the
of
rest of
mirrors.
anything in Game of Thrones.
So, what was the basis of the marriage between Stannis and Celise? Do we know that?
I mean,
Was it one other like arranged lord and lady thing?
I assume.
I sure.
I don't know
I
that there's a
assume so.
strong
Yeah.
history. The Florent family is fairly large, I think, in terms of like things, but still, one of the interesting things that's come up, in some of the stuff that's been released for the World of Ice and Fire is that a lot of the families that got married, the Eddard marriage to Caitlyn, Lysa to John Arryn. Obviously, Robert, because he was king, it was a little bit different. But a lot of those marriages across major families were actually not very common. So they released the Stark family tree, and there's always been a lot of commentary about who. It's never been assumed she's been important, but the commentary of who Eddard's mother was. And
Right.
it turns out she was a Stark cousin.
Oh.
Right, and then you
So
look
they're
at
all
like,
just marrying
and if you look
across
at
the
the
branches of the tree.
Lannisters, Tywin's wife was a Lannister cousin.
Yeah.
So the
And-
whole
Joanna.
Targaryen crazy thing is actually spread across everybody.
Right, and so they were all. There was very common to marry your own bannermen to shore up your own. And this is actually somewhat more true of feudalism.
Right.
You really got to keep your own stuff at home. It's less
Right.
about
Right.
building these huge cross-national
And it depends on
alliances,
if the
but-
marriages are being arranged during time of peace or time of war.
Right.
Yeah.
But in this
Yeah.
case, it's interesting because it kind of lends the idea to the theory that there were some moves going on. It was less about shoring up peace at home and more about making an aggressive move across the kingdom.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, I was asking just because was it? I'm sorry, Celise. Was her name?
Celise.
Yep.
She just seems so cray cray,
Yeah.
Yes.
and Stannis is
Oh, yeah, he's
becoming
totally
being
sick.
made crazy by his environment, but he doesn't
Right.
seem like somebody who would have been attracted to crazy,
Yeah.
No.
initially.
But
And so-
the Baratheons are a big house. I mean, I assume it was arranged marriage.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And she became a religious fanatic first and then got Stannis into it.
Right, right.
So she may have been a little more sane at some point. But like Lysa,
She had all
they're
those
both-
babies, those freak babies.
Yeah.
yeah.
I,
That
was,
could
I was going to bring that up, actually.
But that wasn't. Yeah, that was in the books and not covered in the show. But Lysa had a whole bunch of miscarriages and stillbirths and stuff too before she had
And
the one
Celise did
sickly
too.
child.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they both were locked in towers, very
Huh.
isolated.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stannis is, a really warm, loving man.
Stannis the
So that really, that really, I'm sure, helped her through those difficult times.
Of course.
With her pickled embryos.
Tickle me, cuddle me, Stannis.
And her,
So let's play the audio clip, please.
Okay, let's see if I have it here. Indeed, I do. All right, here it goes.
Potions, lies, deceptions to make men think they witnessed our Lord's power. Once they step into his light, they will see the lie for what it was. A trick that led them to the truth. A pinch of this powder in a bonfire will send a flaming column screaming towards the sky. And this one creates a black smoke that will make the bravest man piss himself with fear. And a drop of this in any man's wine will drive him wild with lust.
Did you use it with Stannis?
No. Don't be upset. Men never crave what they already have. It's only flesh that needs what it needs.
No act done in service of the Lord can ever be called a sin. I thank God every day for bringing you to us, and Stannis to you.
Lisa probably ever going, what about my flesh? It's rotting away over here.
Yeah.
There ain't nobody touching it.
Yeah, I really loved that little piece because it brought together everything people were saying about Melisandre is a witch, and it's like, well, yeah, she totally is. And that, it brings out all the, what's the word I'm looking for? The insecurity that Selyse has about Melisandre, and it's done in the name of the Lord, so it's okay, it's not a sin. But to me, somewhere deep down in Selyse, it still feels like a sin because
she's not. And it also we see a little bit of like there's a little grift going on with Melisandre. So there's evidently some Lord of Light who can make shadow babies. There's some basis for all of this. They can bring people back to life after they're dead. There's clearly an actual legitimate thing going on there.
Right.
But then there's also powders and light shows and all this other stuff, and it's like you use a little bit of each.
Because the power is pretty costly.
Yeah.
As we've seen.
Right, whereas the light shows are not.
And these are just the tricks of the trade to get you to come over to our side. And
yeah, well, you can remember when she went and got Gendry, actually, she was astonished that, the drunken sot that is Thoros could actually resurrect someone.
Right.
Because it implied that she didn't have that kind of power.
Right.
And she was like, really? You? I can't. Oh, wait, no, I'm not going to. You know what I mean? So, it's interesting. There are rules around it.
Yeah.
Right. And what we don't have a great sense of yet is whether the rules around whether the Lord of Light is just the revival of magic as well, or is it the same? Because evidently there was more magic in this world, a millennium ago.
Right.
And it died down, and it comes back with the and the dragons kind of are the indicators of magic, and we don't know is just dragon magic what the Lord of the Light is.
Well, the Lord of the Light stuff does seem a lot like the blood magic.
Or like blood magic,
that was practiced. And I don't think there's ever going to be an answer. I mean, it's one of the things I really like about the books is that, we're not going to see a god.
No,
There's
I don't
going
think
to be
so.
no confirmation of religious accuracy, which is, something that a lot of fantasy stories have a problem doing.
Yeah. Once you start showing the gods, it starts to get a little dodgy.
Yes. Well, it's also pretty inaccurate to real life.
Well, so are shadow babies. That's why it's called fantasy. Not reality.
But not from the human experience aspect of it.
They call it science fiction and fantasy, not science fact and reality. But it's where you start, and it's also just as somebody who's not a huge fantasy reader, it's where fantasy starts to lose me is when when it just gets too far afield of what we are. I like things to be a metaphor for our own experience.
It's okay to have dragons, but once you start changing things in the human experience, oh wait, I do know that there is let's say a heaven and hell, and that there's a set guidance for path. Well, that's completely different than
that's not faith anymore. That's science.
Right. Yeah. It's not faith, and everyone's out there that's oh wait, I can physically talk to something that can okay.
Right. Once religion becomes based on something you can just show people, it becomes a different thing than what we experience, right?
Yeah.
So we have a little listener feedback
hold
on
on,
the.
hold on.
Sorry. Go on.
But first, Somali feedback.
Yeah.
Somali feedback.
Yeah. No, because we got to finish out this scene because
Yes,
it gets to the important point of Selyse trying to leave Shireen behind. Shireen, the little girl.
Right.
And Melisandre's like, no, we need her. And it's like, okay, why do you need a little girl?
I gotta burn me. I mean,
yeah,
she's really cute.
Yeah, she's just
teaching
little
Davos to read.
Eat your adorable little bag of king's blood.
Yeah. And Selyse is like, but she's got heretical tendencies. I'm like, isn't that a band? Oh, sorry, that's suicidal tendencies. But anyway,
They're during the reigns of Castamere next episode.
But the other part of this is that Melisandre is still working on Selyse and like building her up and saying, oh, you don't need all these potions and lies because you see the truth. And you look at Selyse looking into flame and she just looks like, I have no fucking idea what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But yes, it's the truth.
It's just
I
can't
totally
Stannis
believe
felt
whatever it is.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that a woman with no clothes on would be running the Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. On somebody. It's like, you're clearly naked.
Yes. Okay, now you can...
Oh, okay, yes. Now we have a little bit of feedback on this scene. So
You have
Jackie
permission.
Burchett wanted to know, what's with that poison bottle scene? What's the reason for not that one? You don't even want to touch that one. Sure sounds like Brer Rabbit begging Brer Fox not to throw him in the Brer patch. Possibly. Is that Chekhov's exploding vial?
I don't know. I mean, there's nothing. It's tough, right? It could just be, again, the little bit of the opening part of that scene just felt really weird. It's like, was it just a chance to talk about all of her potions, or is the poison going to come into play? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
The whole thing was weird. It was like, why is she even talking about her secret tricks and stuff at all?
Right.
I think it's she seems like a genuine grifter to me, and a big part of being a grifter is that you let. So how did David Mamet put it in House of Games? He said, they say it's a con man, confidence man.
Right.
Right. What does that mean? That you give me your confidence? No, it means that I give you mine. That's how a con man works, is that they are that they're confiding in you. You're feeling like they're trusting you.
Right.
I'm confident in you. I believe in you.
Right.
That's how a con man gets you. Not you need to believe in me. That's just a hustler. That's just
Right,
yeah.
But if I and it's really intoxicating. She knows how to seduce.
Right.
And Selyse, like Molly pointed out, is looking for she's insecure. Right, and so the more that she feels that she's on the inside track of some of these things, and is shown a couple of things behind the curtain where it's like, this is just a fire effect, and that's just a smoke bomb, but this is a shadow baby, and that's a reanimating god.
I just think Selyse
Yeah.
is such a purist when it comes to her belief
Right.
that it seems like that stuff would be like, like, wow, really? It makes you doubt what is real and what isn't.
It's possible, but I think
it's an entry point for doubt.
yeah, it's an entry point for doubt, but
is,
it's also
yes.
something that means if she sees something kind of dodgy, she now has a framework for understanding it. That
She's been let in early.
she's been
That's
let
it.
early.
I think there's a little bit of like Littlefinger disease here. Like,
Yeah.
if she's not going to tell anybody, informing the audience is going to be a pretty elaborate.
Right, that's the other thing too,
Right.
is that we don't have point of view characters. We can't read their
Right.
minds. They have to
Right.
tell each other something. That's why we have Pod and Brienne together. That kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So okay, and then Haven Perez says of this scene, he says, I liked it. It showed the binary character, two people caught in the same spirituality, faith, religion. I've got some problems with the way some people try to separate the notion of spirituality from religion. One person who seems free and liberated, the other who seems to be a faithful and pious slave. One who wears her faith seductively, and the other who wears it like a chastity belt. I think there's something to that. I think Melisandre's faith is weaponized, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally weaponized.
Yeah.
She's using it to kill
Right.
people off and stuff.
Yeah.
And Stephanie Brown Anderson, our good friend, says part of it was just showing us that Melisandre's powers are more magic tricks than real miracles. It's true that
No.
Alan just said, who were
Yeah.
exposed toward us. Performed through the power of some great god. Contrast that to Thoros bringing Beric Dondarrion back to life multiple times, which seems to be a real power and not just a parlor trick. And that touches on the point of like maybe Melisandre can't bring people back to life, and she's surprised that
Right.
that Beric can't, or sorry, that Thoros can't. Okay, cool. So that's where we are on Stannis the Manus.
Really makes you wonder though what percentage is real and what percentage is bullshit.
Right.
believe it's,
Shadow babies seem real.
72-28.
I mean, he did take a life, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so let's tell you what. Let's move on to Tyrion because I want to end on the Moon Gate.
All right.
So all right.
So our first scene is actually the first scene of the episode, and we'll just go straight into the first audio clip of Tyrion and Jaime.
All righty, hold on a second here. Let me get back to that.
Open on a black screen. Get a little talkie-talkie in the black cell.
Talkie, little brother, Kingslayer brothers.
I couldn't listen to her. Standing there telling her lies. I couldn't do it.
You fell in love with a whore.
Yes, I fell in love with a whore, and I was stupid enough to think that she had fallen in love with me.
She did, you asshole.
Yeah.
That deal you made, it was everything Father wanted. You do see that? He gets you back as his heir, the future Lord of the Rock, and he ships me off to Castle Black, out of sight at last. All so perfect. It felt good to take that from him. He knows I'm innocent, and he's willing to sacrifice me anyway.
He's willing to sacrifice any of us.
Not you. You're the Golden Son. You could kill a king, lose a hand, fuck your own sister. You'll always be the Golden Son.
Careful.
Watch it, Sparky.
I'm the last friend you've got.
Is Jamie pretending he's not?
At least I got to tell them what they really are.
Yes. Brilliant speech. They'll be talking about it for days to come. I thought you were a realist. Didn't realize you'd die for pride.
Don't give up on me just yet. I survived one trial by combat, even though you weren't there to save me.
I can't save you this time either.
So there's a bunch of good Lannister goodness in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I always enjoy Jaime and Tyrion because they always seem like to. It's kind of like Tyrion and Bronn as well. It's like these are characters who are being honest with each other,
Yeah.
about where they are, and they genuinely like each other.
Yep.
Right.
I think there were two great points in there. One, when Jamie calls him on, I thought you were a realist, which, Tyrion's not. I mean, we've talked about this before.
He's a romantic.
He's got this huge problem that he wants to tell them off. He wants to tell them how good he is.
Yep.
He's my son.
And he doesn't
often
have
I've had
that
this
sort
conversation?
of patient plotting that a Varys or Littlefinger has, where they're perfectly willing pulling all this off and no one knowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Except maybe Sansa.
And he likes being flashy and in the middle of things,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
on the periphery. And I mean, Littlefinger has generated the whole plot without anybody realizing he was anything but a banker.
And when he
Right.
beats someone, he throws them in the black cells. He doesn't,
Right.
twist them around and use them for more information and that sort of things. And you can kind of see the downfall there. You can kind of see why he didn't take the deal. But the other thing that we're reminded of there when he said, "I fell in love with a whore," is his story from, I believe it was still in the first season.
Yeah.
But the story of where, he met the crofter's daughter along the road.
Taisha.
Taisha, yes, and got, had an affair, got married to her in secret.
Right.
And then his quote-unquote father found out, and Jamie told him that, she was a whore the whole time.
Right.
I just set it up to get you laid. And he had fallen in love with her. And then, of course, we have, the worst thing in the history of Game of Thrones, actually, which we never talk about, but his dad has the entire, regiment rape her in front of Tyrion, and then... I think this is only in the book, but has Tyrion actually rape her last? No, he sends her away with a ton of money.
Oh, okay.
Each soldier
she
deserves
lives.
silver coin,
Right,
and
Tyrion
a
gets
gold
gold
one
coin.
from Tyrion.
Right. And I don't think in the show they actually talked about how Tyrion finished it off.
Yeah.
But
No, I don't think they brought that up.
I think they were like, well, that might be a little dark even for us. But it's literally probably the worst thing in the history of Game of Thrones. And here he is, and you kind of get that, okay, even though maybe you should have realized what was going on with Shay and all this, I get it. I mean, that's trauma I don't have in my past.
I completely buy Tyrion.
And so I almost think maybe it was a muted, oh my God, when you think about that and what he went through there and how this was the first love of his life to the point of marriage. And then, he fell in love with a whore. And then he did it again, and it was you screwed me over.
In fact, I think he told this story to Shay and Bronn, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah,
Yes.
He did.
Yeah. So, so Tyrion, I mean, and then that's what you say, he's not, he makes himself out to be this realist or this real player, but, I mean, it's one thing to see prostitutes, but to date them is completely unrealistic, and when he brought Shay to King's Landing, that was like, are you out of your mind?
Right.
And it's and you can't marry this girl, and you're going to be made to marry some
And everyone knows
lady
the
somewhere.
brothels of King's Landing are the best.
Right.
Right, and you don't start a relationship. Never mind with a prostitute. Don't start a relationship with anybody lowborn.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
True.
lowborn,
Because it's
Right.
not going to end well.
it's not going to end
True.
well, right?
Yeah.
And so he has never been a realist. And then in the I think it was in the second season, when he's second season where he tells Shay, it's like, I like being here. I like being smarter than everybody. And it's like, well, that's a good way to get your ass killed.
Yeah.
Is showing off.
Yeah,
One more time, my son.
Right.
When you were talking about Shay there, I mean, one of the things that's, and this is the relationship between Tyrion and Shay in the book is much more one-sided.
Yes.
Right.
You just see it from Tyrion's point of view, and it's not till the end. I mean, you see it during the point, but he's very delusional about it, and she's a gold digger the entire time. And
Right.
and it's a really great plot line because it takes you a while to kind of sink in that Tyrion is just so desperate for the emotional attachment portion of it,
Right.
that he's completely deluding himself about this. And I've always kind of missed that in this plot line, but I think it kind of comes full circle back here that he can't even forgive Shay on this point, partially because of that, because he locked himself into this emotional relationship because that's what he was looking for.
Yeah, and the change up from the book kind of changes Shay's position as well, because when she's in court testifying against him, and we talked about this last week, she looks really, really hurt, and it's understandable. It's not unrealistic, but it is a sense of like, don't you see by the mere fact that he's on trial that everything he's been saying has been true?
Right.
And so she frustratingly has no moment of getting it, whereas in the book, she gets paid for her testimony by Tywin, so that's it, and then it's totally, both of them are believable. It's all believable, but it's like this felt a little more like she's not very bright. Right. Whereas in the book, it's a little more like she's just a businesswoman. Right.
Like she doesn't really get how desperately he tried to keep her safe.
Right. Okay, more Tyrion.
Yeah, so we get visitor number 2, who is Bronn, and he has come with a flashy new cape. And which is funny because he said he never wanted a cape because it gets in the way when he fights.
Right.
And he tells that Cersei has bribed him with a highborn marriage to the Lackwit Lawless, who is second in line for her castle, and he's intending on making some things happen to actually become
first.
Lord Bronn, Lord Bronn the Stokeworth.
He's just gonna straight up get his murder on.
Right, and he's not even like really hiding it. Like it's just. And that's very Bronn-esque. And he said, here's the thing. You said if anyone ever bribed me, to turn on you, come back and you double the offer. So I'm here to do that. And that's where we have our second audio clip.
Right.
If I gave you the choice between fucking Lawless and fighting the Mountain, you'd have your britches down and your cock up before I could blink.
Does he frighten you so much?
I'd be a bloody fool if he didn't frighten me. He's freakish big and freakish strong. And quicker than you'd expect for a man of that size. Maybe I could take him. Dance around until he's so tired of hacking at me he dropped his sword. Get him off his feet somehow. But one misstep, and I'm dead. Why should I risk it?
Because you're my friend.
Aye, I'm your friend. And when have you ever risked your life for me? I like you. Pampered little shit that you are. I just like myself more.
I understand.
I'm sorry it has to be this way.
Why are you sorry? Because you're an evil bastard with no conscience and no heart? That's what I liked about you in the first place.
That was awesome.
We had some good days together.
Yes, we did.
What will you do?
I suppose I'll have to kill the Mountain myself. Won't that make for a great song?
I hope to hear them sing it one day.
Would be a hell of a song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some good Honor Among Thieves stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Secretary. Yeah, so I've always liked the Bronn and Tyrion show, and that feels like a good ending to it. Like if Tyrion doesn't make it out of this one,
It was a very sweet goodbye.
It was a very sweet goodbye.
And at the beginning of it, he was describing the mountain, which we actually missed a little scene there where we got, how big the mountain that we'll be fighting for the crown side of things.
Right.
How big his sword is. His sword is bigger than most people.
He's,
right.
you know, it's the same guy from the first season who like cut his horse's neck in half.
Right.
Well, not the same guy, but the same guy.
Not the same
character.
actor.
His sword is as tall as Cersei.
Yep.
It's actually, I believe, the runner-up for the World's Strongest Man this year. It's he's got like a Magnus or Carlson or something in his title and his name. But we got that scene after the first scene there where Cersei walks out through the entrails. It was a big week for stomach wounds.
Oh, was it before the cast? We were asking, what exactly was the Hound doing?
Or the mountain was just...
Or the mountain?
Like, it felt half execution, half really crappy training. Like, I'm not quite sure what was... And why was it, like, right outside the walls?
If you ever need to mow through dozens of peasants.
Like, seriously, does he just get up in the morning? He's like, bring me 12 peasants. I will gut them.
I figured he must be, like, breaking in a sword or something. Or, a little too sharp.
I mean,
Let
I
me
get
dull
they
it up a
needed
little
to
bit.
do, like, the mountain's really big and awful, but this was like my other clumsy scene of like one of my other clumsy
I think
scenes
he's
of, like,
just
what?
limbering up.
He's stretching.
Loose.
He's stretching.
Well, he had
Sword
just ridden
practice?
there, so he just ridden there, so he has to get back.
Let me kill like 12 guys.
12 guys.
Whimpering guys, not even fighting back guys.
You want fighting back guys. I mean, what's the point of killing whimpering? Anybody can kill whimpering guys.
Well, I mean, the first guy tried to fight back, but they gave him like a club, like a 3-foot
like a
club.
wooden training sword.
Like seriously, give me something with reach. Give me a pike or something.
Give
for
me
God's sake.
some chance of winning.
Yeah, at
What's
least
the
let me
point?
run. I don't know. I don't
Some
know.
chance
It's
of even
pretty
getting
awful.
one lick in before that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was kind of weird is you know I think from a shooting perspective, I actually really liked the director in general. He's had some really pretty shots, but this one he did a lot of the traditional like look up at the big guy, look down at the person being intimidated. But a lot of the shots were from the bottom here.
Right.
I don't know that we actually got a sense of the mountain scale because everything was so tight in. And then on like Twitter or whatever, there was that picture of Lena Headey and the mountain like standing side by side, and you're like, yeah, they needed a wide shot.
Yeah.
Because oh my god, that man is enormous.
She can put Dinklage on her shoulders, and they would just about be almost the
and
same
he
height.
might be able to reach up and tap his chin.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But Dinklage would have to be standing on her shoulders, not sitting.
Right.
Yes, that's what I mean. Standing.
Yeah.
It's So there was that scene, and that's what Braun was talking about. And
Yes,
you know,
of course I'm
your
scared
offer-
of him.
Yeah. One offer, I get a castle. The other offer, I have to kill a man, and then I get some money, and I might die. Like it's just, it really
and I'm
wasn't
more
close.
than likely to die.
Yes.
Right.
Doing
And I
the
might
second one.
maybe someday, blah, 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 get some really cold land.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Yes, up in
If
the
Cersei
north.
doesn't have me killed
Maybe.
some other way, if
Maybe.
she doesn't
Right.
have me poisoned or shot or just
Yeah.
Or Roose
abducted
Bolton has
or
me poisoned or shot, or-
exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
Paints poison on all the nipples of the whores in King's Landing.
But it was kind of a contrast on how I felt in the writing. Like that scene was so lazy. Like it was just like, let's just have them butcher random people. I don't care who they are.
Yeah.
And then you have this really great goodbye between Tyrion and Bronn, and the scene with Jaime was great too. And you're just like, really? Like
That has
someone
never
put
been
some
a
time in?
well-motivated character on the show. I mean, and not really in the book either. He's just this distant, legendary thing.
Yeah, he's definitely
You know,
more of a
and
like big bad.
They can't give him a lot of screen time. He doesn't have a lot of character plot. So I guess just hacking through some dudes is a thing.
I know, but they were like, they were just.
Are these
lining
just
up.
like spare dudes? Are these like extra dudes that we don't need?
I mean, for a minute there, I didn't think he could talk either, because she's like talking to him and he's just staring at her.
Yeah.
And then finally he's like, well, who am I going to fight? You know?
Gonna fight
Does it
Ray.
matter? No.
No.
Yeah. That's a good point.
That's a good point.
Obviously, it doesn't matter since I'm just lining up random peasants.
Right.
I'll just as happily chop through a half man as anybody else.
And then we get our last Tyrion scene.
Yeah.
Which, you know, the...
Third time's the charm.
Yes, Oberyn comes, and he banters back and forth with Tyrion a little bit about, you know, finding another Lannister who likes killing Lannisters as much as
I like that
he
one.
likes killing Lannisters. It's a wonderful line, and they start bantering back and forth about how much Cersei hates Tyrion, and then Oberyn brings up the point that this is actually not the first time that they've met.
Nope.
Though Tyrion does not remember it because he was a baby, and Oberyn begins to tell this story of the first time he met Tyrion.
Here we go.
The whole way from Dorne, all anyone talked about was the monster that had been born to Tywin Lannister. A head twice the size of his body, a tail between his legs, claws, one red eye. The privates of both a girl and a boy.
That would have made things so much easier.
When we met your sister, she promised she would show you to us. Every day we would ask, every day she would say, soon. Then she and your brother took us to your nursery and she unveiled a freak. Your head was a bit large, your arms and legs were a bit small, but no claw. No red eye, no tail between your legs, just a tiny pink cock. We didn't try to hide our disappointment. That's not a monster, I told Cersei. That's just a baby. And she said he killed my mother. And she pinched your little cock so hard I thought she might pull it off until your brother made her stop. It doesn't matter, she told us. Everyone says he will die soon. I hope they are right. He should not have lived this long.
Well, sooner or later, Cersei always gets what she wants.
And what about what I want? Justice for my sister and her children.
If you want justice, you've come to the wrong place.
And then after that, he says, "You'll be I will start with the Gregor Kilgane, and I will be your champion."
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Watch it again and again.
Such a great scene.
I love me some Oberyn.
It's really good to just hear it too.
See, they should have had an actor with the ooze sex appeal of Oberyn for Dany's lover.
For Dario?
For Dario.
Yeah. It depends. I mean, they're really kind of changing Dario up, but yeah.
I mean, Nina Nario is like the books, but the first one, it looked like a young Arnold to me,
right?
And Conan.
The first one, yeah, he was
and those teeth drove me insane. And he was just slimy.
Yeah.
This guy, he's just not.
If there's
nothing really remarkable about it,
change it up, because in the books there's no real heavy relationship there, right? She just blinks.
Boning, yeah.
Right. I would do a little bit better to make him a closer character to her, and somebody who she really starts to trust. Because she says in that scene, "I don't trust him."
Right.
You know, it's like, "Oh, I would never trust him. I just fuck him." Right. But she needs somebody that she can be having some kind of vulnerability with, and we haven't seen that for a bit. But Oberyn,
But see, she does have that more with her handmaidens and stuff in the books.
Yes, she does.
A little more.
And like as Helen pointed out, it's like you cut out the lesbian stuff that's in the book.
Right.
It's an interesting choice because you're adding a bunch of stuff in that's not in the book.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
But Oberyn and Tyrion.
Oberyn and Tyrion. All right. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. They have the whole hiatus. We have to wait like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Curses.
Right.
That'll give me a chance to update the YouTube page. So okay, so I think we're moving on to Danielle then, since we have
Alrighty.
To Brienne and Pod, and then end with Sansa, please.
So I was all over the place this week. I had Brandon, Pod, and Sansa, but I kept making notes for the Hound, for Tyrion. I was writing down scenes. And I was just all over the place. It was quite a trip. There were just certain.
Well, we can go back and recover any or go over any other.
No, there's just certain storylines I just really got into. I guess.
Okay.
So Bran and Pod, we see them at what we learn is the inn at the crossroads, and they encounter Hot Pie and his kidney pie.
Hot Pie.
And like I said, I really liked the way they just kind of popped him in there, and we didn't see it coming. And then the thing that cracked me up was she told him, "Don't get drunk," and he's like, "Shit, I'm not with Tyrion anymore." God.
Yeah. I love how Hot Pie starts over. Have you ever had a waiter come in and start over chatting, and you're trying to have a talk about finding Sansa Stark?
It's really about the gravy.
It's really about the gravy.
It really is. I mean, when you get a hot pie, there's like if the gravy. I mean, he's like some of the people forget about the gravy, and you're like, how can you forget about the gravy?
Don't give up on the gravy.
It's pretty much all the time.
That's why I go through like self-check lanes in stores, and then I heard one of my grocery store guys complaining that it's taking away people's jobs, and I'm like, I didn't think about it that way. But the reason I do it is I don't want to be chit-chatted.
I don't chit-chat.
I want to be listening to my podcast, scanning my shit, and get the hell out.
Well, at least in the grocery store, there's a line right behind you. Sometimes a waiter, if you're the only table they've got, they get lonely.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you just need to look less friendly.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But it was good to see Hot Pie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And so Hot Pie's doing the GRRM thing, and he's going over ingredients and gravy.
Right,
and,
yes.
Infusing a little bit of the gluttony of George R.R. Martin.
Man, that guy can eat.
Yes.
And I'm not a small man myself, but he can eat.
Mm-hmm.
You can certainly describe food.
Oh, yeah. And then Hot Pie's all chatty until he finds out that their journey is stark and winter hell related, as he said. And then he's suddenly not so chatty anymore. And she does offer that she pledged her life to Catelyn, and that's why she's looking for Sansa. And so it's just, and then other than that, it's just fun to see the banter from Brienne and Pod, because Brienne is like keeps knocking him down a peg, just the way Jaime did her.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just really funny to see her kind of taking the Jaime role and and
More
messing with
dominant
Pod
role,
and. I'm not used to her being able to mess with anybody, really. I mean, not other than whooping their butts.
Well, and you have these two characters who both of them are so sincere and ingenuous.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're not. These are the two least sarcastic, least witty characters in the show, and you would think that they would be the most boring.
I don't know. You're not interesting enough to be offensive is a pretty good line.
That's pretty good. They have to up their game just a little bit. Yeah. Well, she did spend all that time with Jaime. She picked up a couple of.
Yeah, that's probably somewhere in the unviewed scene.
Yeah.
So he definitely used that on.
She
her.
picked up that and two-handed sword fighting.
There you go.
Exactly.
Well, somebody had to pick it up. He couldn't do it anymore.
That's right. Oh my goodness. So,
but I think she's better than him anyway.
yeah.
So then they leave and they're saddling up their horses and getting ready to take off, and here comes Hot Pie again.
Even better.
And he says, "My lord, can I have a word?"
Yeah.
And so then is when he says that he knows. And I've always been saying it Arya, and they keep saying in Arya and Hot Pie both said it Arya. So I kind of noticed
I think it's just a variation.
Just a little bit of variation.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard it that way before. And so then that's when he confesses that he knows Arya. And it was funny when she was like, bottom-lined it, kid. But then I'm also thinking there might be a nugget of information if he told the whole story.
Right.
That might
For
mean
Hot
something
Pie,
later.
That's a 4 to 5 hour conversation.
And I think Arya is
mostly about gravy.
Yeah.
Several servings of kidney pie.
I think that's like lowborn accent, the way that Tywin noticed that Arya was highborn because she said "my lord" instead of "my lord."
Right.
Right. So I think it's supposed to be like the Cockney
lowborn
accent.
Right. Yeah. It's that he's from Flea Bottom. So
Right. And then Pod had said we shouldn't be telling everybody who we're looking for.
Which, to be clear, even though this works out,
he's right.
He's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It works out in that they got a pastry.
Right.
First of all, that is such a wonderful improvement.
Yes.
He's just kicking ass.
Pat.
I'm not quite sure it's going to make it to Arya, but
No.
I mean,
Right.
because it's bread.
And
But I mean, Brienne was all like, "You were saying." It's like, yeah, I was saying that we shouldn't be spreading it around. You got a cupcake out of this, fantastic. Next time it could be the crossbow bolt through the head.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not to mention, they could be running into people that are anti-Lannister. They could be running into people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she's somewhat on a mission from the Lannisters, too.
She's somewhat on a mission from Lannisters and somewhat on the mission from Lady Kate, even though she's dead. And so it's like it's for the Starks or it's for the Lannisters. But why in the hell would she bring Sansa Stark back to the King's Landing? If she has any loyalty to Catelyn at all, she would never do any such thing.
No.
Right.
Brienne just needs something to do.
Yeah. She just wants to know where Sansa is.
I'm on a mission.
Yeah, and she's smart enough to beat feet out of King's Landing.
And Pod needed to go on a field trip, so she's the chaperone. So yeah, it ends with you were saying, and then Brienne and Pod talk strategy as they're on the road, and this is where she learns how much information Pod knows about the different houses and marriages and enemies, and it's all really, really important, really relevant information that she needs.
That Tyrion trained him on.
And it also kind of flashed me back to Maester Luwin. drilling Bran.
Right.
About his sigils and houses.
Right.
And then it also brought me back to the scene back when Arya was the cupbearer for Tywin.
Right.
And the guy screwed up and sent the wrong message to the wrong house.
Right.
So I think they're both kind of learning each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Knowing the power structure is a huge
Yeah.
advantage. If you don't have, and it's so social and not so. It's like ours is documented and we have a media.
Yeah.
We forget that half these, like the hot pies of the world, barely know who the king is.
Yeah.
Right. Because all you're going to get is when soldiers come by, they'll tell you something. That's
Right.
kinda it. So no, especially when it's like some obscure cousin, like it's good
When
to
a
have
random knight comes along with a random coat of arms, it's going to be really helpful for Brienne to know who
they
he's
are.
sworn to.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, is that a are they
This is
sworn
like
to
such a
Hoster
classic-
Tully? Are they sworn to the king? Are they sworn to
This is
who?
such a classic
Right.
role-playing game party. It's like you have the one guy who's got all the information. He can't do jack shit, anything else. You have the badass fighter who knows how to ride and do everything, but she doesn't know anything.
And that's also Arya knowing that to say that they were on the side of Riverrun because they were in Riverrun territory. And so she
Right.
lied and she said they were for House Tully.
Right.
Just knowing those things that you don't say the wrong thing or represent the wrong house
Yeah.
at the wrong time. Anyway.
All right.
And then let's move along there. And then but I wasn't clear on where they were going.
I believe they're going to the Vale.
Because he was saying the Vale and she said, "Are you sure?" And he said no.
They were at High Road and Low Road.
Yeah.
And they might have, and it looks like they went.
No,
Low
I
Road.
think they're going to the Vale.
But yeah, and he said she has one living relative in a big
that has
powerful
money.
castle who has money.
Yeah.
Where else is she going to go? If I
John
was
on the
her-
Wall isn't going to have money.
John not going to.
Plus, he's
Also-
not supposed to claim his family anymore.
Yeah.
Also, like
Even and why would you want to go to the wall?
5 times.
Well, I
as
mean, if
far.
they thought she was there.
Yeah.
Like, there is also just expediency of distance on
Right.
this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And,
Right.
and like when you look at the map, one of the things is like the north is like twice as big as the south in a lot of ways. Like
Right.
it's like enormous.
Right.
So and it's cold.
Yeah. No, I mean it's
And there's something about winter.
This is definitely a Westeros SVU. I mean, you go with known associates. Who are her closest known associates? Who is her next of kin?
Right.
Go find her
Right.
next of kin.
Right.
Who is that creepy guy who kept hitting on her?
Yeah, he's missing too. He's like
That also shows how ill-prepared Jamie sent her off, too. Other than, luckily...
Right. Well, that
Plot
becomes
has
the other
info.
question. How did she get away? And Littlefinger also got away. Even though he was scheduled to leave.
She
or
wasn't a
whatever.
prisoner, though.
She was a prisoner, sure. In King's
Brienne?
Landing, she was a hostage. No, Sansa. The question is
got
got to think that Sansa is a good likelihood that Littlefinger absconded with her.
Mm-hmm.
No one has figured that out yet for sure, but it's
People
like,
have stopped talking about it, really.
yeah, it's like how can she get anywhere without being spotted?
Right.
She must have been on a ship.
But there is very little to do about it, right? You go down to the docks, you ask people if she was down there.
No,
You
but
ask
it's just
everyone at the
more
gates
reason
and-
why she'd be at the Vale.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like, okay,
Yeah.
he's at the Vale. Come on. There's like, it's all adding up to that's our best lead.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But, I mean, previously she was going to the wall because
Yeah.
she was like, that's her only living relative, she thought.
Yeah.
Was her
It's
brother.
just so annoying to climb all the way up there in the moon. Go, oh, she's not here. Okay, back on.
Yeah.
Can we send a raven or something?
All right. All right.
Guys, lower down a bucket. We'll put a note in it. Right. Okay.
And then we see Sansa come out of the palace or whatever at the Vale, and it's snowing, and I think it reminded her of home.
Can we say 14 years old? But man, she was stunning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just freaking. So it's like, when did she become stunning?
Yes.
She was amazing looking with that.
quite
whole,
a beautiful
She looked
role.
with her, but it looked like her father's cloak. She looked like a Stark again.
Yeah.
And everything. We hadn't seen that in a long time. And they dyed her hair.
To make you feel better, the actress is, I believe, 18 at this point.
Yes,
Right.
no,
So-
I'm fine with that.
But the Vale
At least
is
6 feet tall.
8-year-olds, dude.
the Vale is really cold, anyways, because the Vale's supposed to be
Yeah.
way, way, way,
But
way, way
she really looked like the heiress of House
I mean,
Stark.
them
Yeah.
walking into the Vale when they arrived was very misleading because it's a long, arduous, sharp,
With an awkward,
dangerous journey to get up
with
there.
rounded off stairs, and
Right,
having
and
to-
you have
yeah.
to have
Yeah.
people that know what they're doing guide you.
Right.
But they didn't want to hire them, so they cut
One
that
does
out.
not simply walk into the Vale.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So then she starts building a model of Winterfell out of snow.
Remarkably well. too.
Remarkably
just
well.
real good.
I mean, she should probably be a sculptor.
Yeah. Where were all her little
Cups
sculptor
and
tools?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she had
No, that was
no
like
little
with
sand
mittens
buckets
on.
Yeah, with her
and
thumb.
shovels.
The whole thing
and-
with her thumb.
Some
Amazing.
nails to just
Amazing.
put the detail in.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so she got it out
And then,
Winterfell.
so she's building Winterfell, and then Robin comes out and starts being pesty. And he starts saying, when he grows up, he'll be able to fly anybody who bothers him. And then he says, or you. And the first time I watched it, it was totally like, yeah, if you don't please me, I'll throw you out the moon door. Is what it felt like, because he had that pause.
Oh,
and then
another
he says,
Joffrey.
right. And then she's smiling the whole time. And I'm like, huh? And then he's like, when we get married, you can tell me if you don't like somebody. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
How about I don't like you?
Actually, not any less creepy.
Yes.
No, not
Is
so
there
much.
any reason for this moon door to be open all the time? Shouldn't there actually be a door, a literal door?
I mean, it could just
over
be
it?
their best form of air conditioning. I'm not really sure.
It just seems really dangerous.
It was snowing. It's like
getting
it'd be really cold.
stuffy in
Really
there.
dangerous.
Let's
Just really
let's
dangerous.
air out the throne room with this giant open hole in the floor.
In the floor.
And then Robin has never left the Vale, so he has no idea what life on land is like, because he's way up in the clouds, and he doesn't understand that Winterfell doesn't have never had a moon door, because there's how do you do that?
Because most places don't.
Most places don't. He doesn't know that. He's like,
And he doesn't quite understand that one, so he decides, hey, maybe we should make one, and she's like, okay, and then he smashes like the biggest tower, and Sansa says he's ruined it. And she does seem a little bratty.
Yeah.
But then I heard other people going, wait a minute, did she start off more joking and then turn bratty?
I think she was just chiding him and seeing if he's at all parentable.
I think she was more
and the answer is no.
I think she was the current snotty Sansa turned into old snotty Sansa. She got progressively more.
Like the first line reading felt very Mary Poppins.
Mhm.
Like I'm disciplining you in a way where I'm pushing back as an exercise. Like I really don't care about my snow castle. It's going to fall apart by itself. And then he started flipping out, and she didn't respond. And she responded by flipping out herself, rather than by
coddling him.
Rather than by de-escalating the whole thing and saying, it's okay, we'll build it together, or some other whatever,
See, and I kind of read it that she did really care about that castle, because she kept talking about how she was never going to get back to Winterfell, and this was the last
And
time
she was trying to do it. She was trying to do it from memory while she could still remember.
And she couldn't even remember if it was right. So to me, it seemed like she was really upset when he took the first hit at it.
And she was looking for a connection to home.
Well, you can be really upset and still have the posture of disciplining. I agree. I think she was really upset.
Yeah. Right.
But
remember, she's supposed to be a kid too. She's only supposed to be a few years older than him.
Right.
And she's barely mature as it is.
Right.
Either way, this was one of
your
those
own
awkward moments for me.
sensibilities.
I don't know. I felt like the escalation was like, oh, okay, I guess we're going there. I don't know. It didn't, like, I felt like if I had been shooting that, I would have been like, no, someone go rewrite this. Let's try this one again. Like, I didn't really buy a fight out of that one. I was like...
See, I was trying to get through the scene before I kind of went into the differences from the books, but it was a much longer scene in the books.
Oh.
And Peter actually comes out and helps her problem solve how to build certain parts. And she's like, well, what about the roof? And he's like, well, what about sticks? Interwoven. And she's like, well, what about the gargoyles that sit on these towers? And he's like, well, it's snowing. What do they look like when it snows? Blobs. Cool. Blobs are a lot easier to make than gargoyles.
So
it's a much longer scene.
Yeah.
And her and Peter are actually like, doing it together, and he's not being
creepy. Creepy Uncle Peter.
He's not being full on Littlefinger.
For Peter.
Yeah. And
I am your uncle and your lover.
Right. And
For the moment, though, I am just your uncle.
Right. And then when Robin comes out, he pretends he's a giant. And he uses his doll to stomp, and then she rips his doll.
I'm pretty sure it took all of Martin's effort not to make it Godzilla.
Right.
Wait, it's a giant.
It's a kaiju.
Godzilla.
Right.
So that's definitely the feel it has.
Kaijus are coming.
And then Rob Burton goes into a full-on seizure because it looks like he has epilepsy, which they don't really have the shaking disease is what they call it, I guess.
So you're saying they tightened it up a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was a much more of
didn't
a
get 40
drawn-out
minutes
scene.
of castle building,
No.
montage.
But it kind of, she didn't build it by herself completely. He helped.
Yeah.
They should have had Kurt Sutter come in and montage it up for them.
Yeah,
They
there you go.
made it seem like it took days.
Yep.
Right.
And so then she's freaking. She slaps him, obviously. So then she's freaking out about him telling Aunt Lysa because he ran off. And then she's like, "Why did you really kill Joffrey? Tell me." And that's when he's like, "I loved your mother more than you know, and given the opportunity, what do we do to the ones that hurt the ones we love?"
Right.
And then he's just progressively getting creepier and closer to her, and creepier and closer to her. And then the whole
and he goes there.
And the whole I
go
could have been
there.
your father.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. So, I
don't care
nasty.
if nasty. I don't care if she is 7 feet tall. She is a 7th grader. No, sorry, 9th grader. She's a
Right.
9th grader, man.
And he just established I'm old enough to be your father.
Right. I guess so.
Yeah.
Right?
But I guess in this world, once you've had your period, you're fair game.
Well, I mean, he's obviously just super creepy.
He's also super creepy.
Having a period is
if
one
that had
thing.
been the scenario to be like, I loved your mom, and you're hotter than her, and
Yes.
I never got her, so
Here you
I
go.
that's not, even if you were
That's-
going after her, that's not,
Even if she was 22.
like, that's a wildly awful approach.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where in the world you think that's...
Probably not likely to win her over very
No.
well.
I don't think he thinks he has to, though.
No, that's true.
No,
He's
he
just
doesn't.
going to
I
move
got her trapped up here in a box.
Right.
Yeah.
He's going to keep moving the pawns until
This
she's
is another,
his.
I'm
this is another
clearly
place where the
able
blocking
to-
drove me nuts, because she is so tall
Yes.
that she had
Yes.
to bend over for him to force
It was
kiss
almost
her,
like with
and
Tyrion.
it looks like she was kissing him. It looks
Yeah.
like she initiated
It
it. It's
totally.
terrible.
She took a really long time to pull away.
Yeah.
All she has to do is lean back.
But the
He's
problem
not going to get
was,
up there.
Literally,
Right.
if he had tried to force, he would have had to be like jumping down. Like they didn't even get her on her knees,
Right.
or like put them on, like put a box underneath him. Like it was. I was just like, wait,
Have him up on
is
a
she
step
leaning
or
down to
something.
kiss him?
That really ended. I don't forget if she was that tall at the beginning of the show, but that ended up working really well with Dinklage.
Yeah.
Where it's like she's like 5'11".
Yeah.
You know?
No, you go back to season 1, and her and Arya and Bran, they're just such babies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I have no idea if they were supposed to do that. She was like somewhat willing, or it was just she's just too tall.
I think he's just not that kind of
He's
height.
yeah.
He's-
Either way, it was just like, really, you have to fix that.
I think it was it's supposed to be more of a shock, but
Yeah.
she stayed in it too long, way too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the wind whipping eeriness sounds when she walks in to see her Aunt Lysa when she's summoned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care if you are my aunt. I'm not getting anywhere near that mood dance.
Hell no!
I wouldn't be
No.
getting anywhere near that ever. No,
Yeah.
like
No.
I trip and fall enough in life.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
please.
I'm not.
I don't want one to be the end of it.
Right.
Yeah, and they are supposed to be able to close it.
Yes, but they just don't close it much on the show.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway. And so then she's telling her, come here, and do you know how far the fall is? I don't either, but it's hundreds of feet. And it's fascinating what happens to bodies from that height. They break in pieces, and sometimes a head's sitting there, and every
Looks
hair's
like
in
thousands
place.
of feet, actually.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
And, oh, by the way, that's super creepy.
Would you like to hear the
No,
splat?
I don't need to be looking at this standing next to you.
Right.
Even by the little part where there's not even like a foot guard.
I don't
Yeah.
like standing next to people on like the subway platform. Right. To be clear, like
Yeah, you might get
nowhere
body
near me
checked
on
into
the-
something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Sansa thinks she's there to, get in trouble for slapping the kid. But then she starts in with, you kissed him, you kissed Peter. And obviously, normally her kid would be the number one priority until Peter came along.
Oh, Peter.
And that's where she's saying she's a liar, he's mine. And then Peter comes in and he's like, Lysa, let her go. And, all that stuff happened. And
I've only loved one woman.
it was pretty good.
It was great.
It was pretty
It was
good.
pretty awesome.
And I'm a bookie. I'm not furious about them not using the only cat, but I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
Because I actually did the audiobooks, not the written books, the books. And
I think it works
even
better.
though the accent on the written books, once you watch the show, you start hearing things in the actors' voices.
Uh-huh.
And I could just so hear him say it. And, I just want to read 3 lines here. So he said, "My sweet, silly, jealous wife, I've only loved one woman, I promise you." And then Lysa Arryn smiled tremulously. "Only one? Oh, Peter, do you swear it? Only one?" "Only Cat." And he gave her a short, sharp shove.
Yes.
So that's why the "only Cat" was just boom.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are thinking that the reason they didn't do that is people wouldn't understand that Cat meant Catelyn.
Yeah.
But they mentioned he just got done saying how much he loved her mother and stuff, and they could have slipped a cat in there.
Yeah, they could have slipped a cat in there
to make it make sense.
I do think it was the Twitter effect, which is there's 140 characters.
Yeah.
Go ahead, and I got to keep them straight. And so saying your sister just
right.
I think in that read it drives it home a little more powerful.
I'm thinking the 2 DBs though need a couple of diehard book readers in their pocket to know the pulse of what book readers really freak out about.
Well, they have George R.R. Martin.
Well, and actually,
but George admittedly does not know the world as well as some others. There's a guy in Sweden that knows it best.
So one of the writers, Brian Cogman, his original job was reading the books backwards and forwards and holding them on that stuff. So they've got people, and they've both read the books numerous times. I think every single reader has those certain touch points. Like we were talking earlier, this one did not bother me. Everybody who's read the books knows that line and kind of loves that line. But for some reason, it didn't resonate poorly with me. In fact, if anything, it was the Oberyn scene, the end of that. I really loved it in the books, how it sort of came out of nowhere. And in the show, it's really obvious what's going to happen. He builds up to it and he gives his full explanation. Right. But then that was for me the thing that I was like, that's kind of a bummer. Right. But I think every book reader has these certain touch points, and to try to cater to all of them is
true. And I will say, overall, most deviations I've agreed with because it cleaned up the story a little bit. It got people going in a better direction.
Yeah, you still have the window.
Which is fantastic.
I want my only cat though, and you want your Vargo Hoat.
Well, yes, actually, I'm still pissed about Vargo Hoat.
Vargo Hoat is a pretty bad one.
Yep.
But for me, I'm reading the books as an adjunct to the show. I'm enjoying the show primarily.
Right.
And so what I love about the books is all of the detail in the back information that there's no way the show could render.
Yeah. Right.
There's no way the show could render all of everyone's history.
The 17 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
It really enriches what's on the screen.
Exactly. But for me, the criterion is it good TV? And it totally is. You know? You can diverge. And the thing is, they're never going to diverge so far from the plot.
Right.
Because otherwise they'd have to start making up whole fresh new stuff.
And when they do, it's obvious, but they still come back to things like Only Cat. They really didn't. They didn't need to do that. There's other things that are going to come this season that don't need to happen.
There are things
but
that
they're going to do them.
Yeah, there are things that read better than they play, like 77, courses in a wedding.
Right.
Even though that apparently wasn't going on, they didn't focus on it.
I won't say any specifics, but there are certain things that they did deviate that the way it was in print led to characters' motivations later on. And so now that these things didn't happen, I'm kind of like, why is this person going to be motivated to do what they do later?
But I think that's why.
So that's going to be
you just
interesting
got to
how
take the show on faith. A lot of people freaked out pretty early when characters like Shay and that sort of things lost motivation, or Tyrion, or all that, and the character just changes. They still end up in the same place. It's still that's kind of my point with the Tyrion comment I had earlier. His relationship with Shay was completely different. It didn't completely lose the character, right? It just was. It's
just a different story. Or like Marjorie. Marjorie is doing all the same, more or less the same literal stuff from the book, a little bit more like feeding.
But she's not a real character in the book.
But in the show, she's a real character, and that's a very good choice. Because there are very few people in King's Landing to sympathize with, or who are well motivated in any way, and so it's nice to have one person who you kind of could want her to win.
What's funny is I did not realize we didn't have any Bran until I got here tonight.
I've
watched this episode 4 or 5 times.
No Bran at all.
He wasn't even on my radar.
No.
Didn't miss him.
He's heading up for his magic tree and his 3-eyed raven.
I'm just kind of disappointed to lose Lysa, because Kate Dickey was awesome That was like
she's pretty great.
That was like the perfect amount of creepiness. Like
Yeah.
not like overbearing Game
She
of
owned that
Thrones
role.
creepiness.
No.
She wasn't
Totally.
like, raping people with a pole.
No lotion and basket stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, just that borderline personality disorder,
Right.
that bipolar, frenzied mania behind the eyes, that lunacy that you could see that she's aware of and barely holding it together.
Right.
Right.
And just the slightest little provocation and she's going to lose it. Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely.
I wonder if they had used any prosthetics on her face either, too.
I don't know.
I mean, I've looked at pictures of the actual actress,
Uh-huh.
and she obviously doesn't look as severe. and,
Right, right.
she's a lot
A lot of
softer
that could be
looking.
makeup.
I think it's
too.
probably mostly makeup.
Makeup
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
lighting.
But I mean, she's so. Her and the boy. I actually had to look up the boy and see if they were related because I was so curious. Especially because we really get a really good look at him outside when they're doing the
Yeah.
They
snow.
might have given her.
When we don't normally see him, he's like buried in a boob or something.
Yeah, they might have given her a mouth prosthesis.
Yeah, I thought maybe
Bulge out
the
her
noses
cheeks.
kind of seem more
Yeah.
exaggerated, and that boy's nose seemed very similar to her. So I wonder if they had
Right.
kind of monkeyed with their noses to make them look more like.
I don't know. We have a little feedback on the on the end of Lysa and the situation with Sansa. So we have Jay Greenspan says, "It occurs to me that this is easily the best situation Sansa's been in since she left Winterfell." It's probably sad,
way
but
to
it's true.
stretch there.
Yeah. She's got to get her hurl on. She just
Didn't
start hurling people out that thing.
I thought he sent that
Make 'em
before this
fly.
episode, though. I thought he sent that before this episode.
No.
No, that was
Was
this
it after?
That was this
Okay.
episode.
Yeah, that's this episode.
But either way, it's
Yeah.
her arrival to Phil, even if with Lysa going out the window. I grant that Littlefinger's obsession by proxy thing is weird and more than a little bit creepy. And sure, he's a ruthless schemer/murderer, but look at the plus side of the ledger. He's wealthy, he clearly wants her safe, he listens to her a little, and he's crazy powerful. If you look at her options and horrible history, I'd say it's pretty damn good. My advice is put your feet up, Sansa, pour a glass of wine, and try to enjoy the best you can. For 5 minutes the 5 minutes you'll have before the next really horrible thing happens to you. The show is operating on such an incredibly high level now. All the plots and relationships are clear and compelling. The cast is 900. It's impossible to find a weak link. Just great stuff. So Jay's very impressed.
Cool.
Yeah. And he doesn't impress easy, so I've been pretty good for Jay. Haven Perez had to say, I get the feeling, as messed up as Littlefinger may seem, that he is the best Haven for her. He would treat her like a traditional princess. Okay, I'm revealing my cards. I kind of like Littlefinger. There, I said it.
I enjoy crazy pedophile murderers.
I wish I had the intervention music. We need to come after you if you like Littlefinger. You have a problem, and we're sending you to Florida for 90 days.
Why Florida?
Well, that's where they always send
I've
them.
been seeing a lot of little finger confessionals from people.
Oh yeah, the people are starting to
Confessionals.
Considering his background and class and station, the man is a survivor, and his power is just as much about his cunning mind as his newly acquired titles. I find his desire for Sansa's mother charming. I wish he would play the role of uncle to Sansa. I don't want Uncle Baelish. I don't want Uncle Baelish.
No.
Oh, that's so creepy. Oh, put the lotion in the basket.
Baelish don't want that either.
That little mustache. His desire to use her to replace the desire he had for her mother is uncomfortable for sure. You think?
That was a really charming love when he hit on her over her husband's bones. It was truly
Right.
charming.
You stay classy. You stay classy. Jessica Leggett says, I love to hate Littlefinger. If I were evil, I would want him to be on my side. As for Sansa, I do not approve of rape. Let's got to get rape conversation.
Oh, here we go.
But if it will get her to wake up out of her helpless
Oh,
stupor
no.
that she's in,
Oh, no.
ellipses, that's pretty dark. That's pretty
Oh,
dark.
that is really dark.
Can we vote that one worst comment ever? Just move on.
Wow.
I think maybe just a little coffee.
Could someone just sit her down and explain some things verbally? Maybe in a kind and
Yeah,
gentle
just-
manner?
Find some stuff to hurl out of that moon gate. Oh, gosh. And then Auntie Erica says, I would hope that Sansa is using her power on Littlefinger. He couldn't have her mom. Come on, Sansa, pretend you like him. It would be good for both of them. Oh, no.
That's not going to end well.
Littlefinger can pretend Sansa is her mom, and Sansa can come at the Lannisters with a vengeance. Littlefinger has money and is sneaky. To me, that would be a win-win. So leverage the power of Littlefinger against the Lannisters. I don't know. I think maybe marry Littlefinger and hurl him out that gate.
Her height.
That's a pretty dangerous game to be playing. But yes.
Her height and size, though, makes his nickname even funnier.
She would have leverage.
She would have leverage. She definitely has the weight advantage.
The reach.
Yeah, she has the reach and the weight advantage. So, okay, well, I think that just about covers it for the show. Do we have anything else before signing out? No. I don't have any. Do you guys want to do a spoiler section? I don't have anything myself.
I had a little thing of curiosity if we wanted to do.
Okay, cool. So we are going to we'll do a spoiler section for 5 minutes or so. So when you hear the play out music, if you don't want to be sullied, hit stop. Otherwise, you will be spoiled. And so I guess we're 2 weeks out. We have a Memorial Day layover. And so 2 weeks from now, we will be seeing the Mountain versus Oberyn. And until then, if you're looking for justice, you came to the wrong place.
And you cannot give up the gravy.
And don't give up the gravy. If you're looking for gravy, you came to the right place.
Some excellent bread.
It's an excellent bread. All right, take care, everybody.
You know, the soft light seems to shine in your place.
Okay, if you're listening past our music cue, this is the spoiler section, so I warn you that this is a free fire zone. Anything that's appeared in the books or any other speculations that have appeared online might be uttered here. So turn off now if you don't want to hear it. Mr. Green, you have the floor.
Oh, yeah. So something Danielle was talking about, just little things that they changed or borrowed, and you're like, wait, why did they do that? One of the things that kind of caught my ear, and again, I'm not sure if you got to this point in the book, but the argument that is being made where Jon is saying, let's seal the gate, and everyone else is arguing against him, is the exact opposite in Dance with Dragons. When Jon has become our Lord Commander, Bowen Marsh and his, for lack of a better term, his, old school cabal that sort of fights him on things, wants to seal the gate.
And Jon doesn't want to seal it.
And Jon does not want to seal the gate. And he uses a lot of the same arguments.
Huh.
And I thought what was interesting about it is that they very much painted, just inherently by being Jon, he's right. On the book, inherently by being Jon, he's right.
He's right.
And it's two sides of the argument. I'm not sure if that's really incredibly devious or in a season they're going to be like, crap.
That's what I'm wondering on some of those things, and the payout's not going to work.
Because he wanted to seal the gates, and now he's in charge. Mother.
Yeah.
I mean, things will change, right?
I think they're going to change the battle. I mean, they changed up Blackwater significantly.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, because it's really 3 battles that they put into one.
Right, and we have Stannis the Manus coming in.
Right.
And so... and we also not clear. It's not clear to me with the order with which Jon is going to become in charge. Right? They haven't even.
Yeah. When
they haven't even started talking about the election.
Are they going to save it for the next season? Because
I think so.
If they rush it in episode 10, it'll be awful.
Right.
It'll just be horrific. Cause Sam's whole Sam goes off on this thing where he basically rigs the election. I mean, not badly, but he gets Jon elected, and to try to do that in one episode is pretty horrifically.
He does some double talking.
Well,
to
and the
get
thing is,
people
so the episodes we have.
Well, they could skip that and just have him be elected.
We have Oberyn and the Mountain. Then we have what's clearly going to be the battle with Mance Rayder.
Right.
Right, and then we have the others, right, or the children.
We have the children as the last one.
The last one.
But we've got a decent amount going on there because my favorite plot line. Tyrion killing Tywin.
Right.
We've got.
I could see them introducing the circumstances under which Jon has to take leadership at the end and have that be the cliffhanger for next season. But I don't see them running.
The only thing I can see
election.
happening is that he fights so well that they just elect him.
Right.
And
it could be by acclamation. They
skip all the Sam stuff, which would
possibly. But it feels like such good table setting for next season.
And Mormont's Raven coming back.
Such good first episode meat to get Jon moving ahead.
Well, and just it feels like they would want to do that, give Sam something before he just disappears completely. Because there's a really good chance his plot line in the next book is just going to go away.
Right. Because
it's pretty boring. I don't normally say that about the book, but honestly, it does bring us the words "the fat pink mast," referring to exactly what you think it refers to.
I forgot that one.
That is one of the two juvenile, awesome genitalia euphemisms that Martin throws out in book 4. But
well, I am reading. So I'm about almost about 20% through. I'm reading Feast for Crows and Dance of Dragons for the first time together in Boiled Leather's order.
Do you have that list handy? I wouldn't mind jumping back in and listening again.
It's on Boiled Leather.
Boiled Leather?
Yeah. And it's a...
Which, if you aren't reading, is actually one of the better
Yeah.
Ice and Fire themed Tumblr.
And it's so far from what I've been able to discern from reading it, it's a very good read order.
Right.
It has you skip the subplots until they're established a little better, and I'm moving along, and it feels like one big book. So,
and one of the nice things about it is actually brings some contrast into place. Like Danny and John have contrasts that are strong that are in A Dance with Dragons, but when you pull in A Feast for Crows, you actually get Cersei, who's ruling, her part of the world in contrast with each of them ruling, and you see, like, it's interesting because the chapters will suddenly be back to back, and you're like, okay, this makes a lot more sense.
I find Cersei, because this is the first book where she has a point of view, I'm finding her just a little comical almost. It's like, are you really this nasty about every fucking thing all the time? So breakfast puts you in a bad mood. Just sunsets put you in a bad mood. Everything puts you in a bad mood.
It was actually the Boiled Leather guy, who's Sean T. Collin, who actually writes the recaps for Rolling Stone, and he does a lot of other pop culture writing. Because I felt the same way. At some point, you're just like, wow, like, she's just awful. Like, I think like we're reaching the point of comically awful. And then he wrote something that made me kind of think, because I was like, yeah, no, I've met that person too, that someone actually had to point out to him that Cersei was very, very similar in her actions and presumably then in her thoughts as to someone that he knew that was actually struggling with mental illness and going down a road of like extreme paranoia and all that.
And that feels...
And reading that through that lens, he's like, wow, it's actually kind of creepy how accurate it is.
She does seem like she could be mentally ill.
Yes, and once you start reading it that way, it stops being like cartoon villain and just being like just really awful.
Yeah, because she's so unreasoning.
Yes.
That it's difficult to get through.
Wow.
And I, as reading it, I did pick up. It's like this is pathology. This is like narcissism and psychopathology of some sort. But it's not pleasant to read.
No,
like Jamie's pleasant to read. Jamie's chapters, he's actually kind of a soulful character. Even for all his ruthlessness and willingness to be horrible, he's not just filled with hate of everything.
Yeah, he's not hate all the time.
He doesn't hate everything all the time.
But his point of views kind of point of view chapters come during his journey of everything he's gone through too. So that's where
he is changing too. So she's not really changing.
Not for the better.
Not for the better, anyway.
And Cersei's on her way down.
Yeah. I can't remember now. Does Cersei have point of view chapters?
She does. Starting in book 4, she has
starting book 4.
Once she takes over the rule,
a while,
and it's mostly paranoia about Marjorie and other people trying to get at her last children and herself. And
so far, she actually likes Marjorie in the chapter I've got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's still in the pro Marjorie camp.
You start to hear a little bit of Cersei's history, and it culminates in that walk of shame in the 5th book, which is just fantastic. But
so. All right. Well, and there you go. Anything else for spoilers?
Don't think so.
All right, everybody. Well, we will see you in 2 weeks for the big fight. Sunday, Mountain versus Oberyn.
That will be there. You're gonna see like the book purist in me.
Yeah.
Like, there's absolutely no reason to change a single
sword
word
strike
of that chapter. Yeah. I mean, maybe the sword strike, because some of those things might be technically impossible, but like the wording in that, the dialogue,
his dialogue has to appear,
is epically, like,
it's epic.
The mountains and the Viper, it's just, the words are fantastic.
I don't mind them
reason
changing
to
up
mess with it.
Yeah, it's got to have the epic dialogue. I don't mind them changing up the action, because Martin doesn't do action all that super fantastically, but his dialogue is always really great.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they obviously went the whole Darth Maul route on the action.
Right.
So.
Now, in the
brief spinning things,
I only saw a brief preview of Oberyn starting to do his little dance stuff, but he looked like he had a sword, not a spear.
No, he has a really long spear.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was going to be really disappointed if they changed that.
No, definitely has the spear.
Good, awesome.
All right, everybody. 2 weeks. We'll see you then.
Ciao.